Well, how about this? Now you're educating them, which is the huge part of it, and you're bringing the network and the relationships into it. How do you look at growth, both personally and business? How do you advise them in that? And, we have a lot of startups that are a part of the Entre network, and I'm sure they would want to hear this too. But how do you look at growth? How can you continue to build the business, build your personal self, and evolve?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the first thing, it goes back to the same thing I just said. Number one, always be learning, right? Number two, and probably number two should be number one. You should always, and Dave Meltzer, my partner, is a big proponent of this. You should always have solid mentors, right? You should have, at least 3 to 5 mentors at any given time in your life. Have mentors in the positions that you want to sit in, right? We live in a world where now everybody is accessible to you, right? When we were growing up, Charlie, and I know it seems like the not too distant past, but I couldn't just go online and reach out to the CEO of a Fortune 100 company. But with LinkedIn now you can. And LinkedIn even makes it easier, right? Because they're able to help you find the common thread. So you go and say, I want to reach out to the CEO of, I don't know, Home Depot. You can see right away where that person went to school. So they give you the fodder to have that common ground to where you may be able to connect with someone. But to take it away from such a vague and abstract place, start with your mentors that are close to you. Start within your own family. Ask, tell people what you're involved in. And I think that's one thing that a lot of us, struggle with, especially early on when we're beginning our journey as entrepreneurs, is that we don't let enough people know what we're actually doing. And that was something that I struggle with. And, you hear all these things kind of growing up. You don't want to block your blessings by talking about things before they actually happen. But I want to stop that narrative right now. The more you put it out into the universe that you're doing X, and I think, Grant Cardone, Dave Meltzer, a number of folks that are truly inspirational, motivational speakers, believe in speaking your blessings into existence. Number one. Number two, you're informing the world what you're doing. And number three, there's almost always unequivocally going to be someone in that network that you have given that message to that knows someone else that can help you. So it's very simple for all young entrepreneurs out there. Reach out to your network. You don't have to be disingenuous or fake, but the folks that you've made strong connections with, let them know, hey, I'm doing X. Do you know anyone that, may be able to get a benefit from this service? Or do you know anybody that can point me in the right direction or can teach me more so that I can have more credibility in actually what I'm doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to look at the mentorship too, is you have the ability for podcasts. I mean, I was listening to a podcast with Kevin Hart last night, and I mean, it was super inspirational. He's not a mentor of mine, but he kind of is virtually, whoever it may be you're listening to and trying to evolve. So it's super helpful. I like that a lot. What about the execution part of it? I mean, when you have the knowledge, you have the mentorship, the leverage around it. I mean, I know you mentioned this before too, the execution, you got to finish and you got to go after it, right? I mean, how do you look at that? I mean,
yeah, well, for me, I come from a field in the law, which is generally pretty rigid, and your name is your brand, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in most other fields, your face is your brand. In the law, your name is your brand. So if you think about it that way, is no matter what you do as an attorney, your work product is going to be consistent with your name. So you have to establish credibility that no matter what, I know David Moreno, when he's in the courtroom, he's a hell of a trial lawyer, right? So you have to establish the credibility that's consistent with the person that you want to be. You can build an amazing brand, but if it's actually not credible, eventually it's gonna die down. Folks are gonna stop engaging with you. They're gonna stop following you. They're not gonna repost. Dave Meltzer has a great name for these individuals that help promote your message. He calls them ambassadors. If you're actually not credible, if you don't have valuable content, if you're not bringing value to someone else, then you're no longer gonna have ambassadors. And while you may create a niche brand that's a flash in the pan, kind of akin to a one-hit wonder in music, it's not going to have lasting power or staying power. So just to go back into it, being a Renaissance man, being involved in a number of different industries is awesome. I think the older generation always would tell you, be careful, don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Our generation has kind of, tested that a little bit and pushed it to the barriers. But the main thing with that is as long as you have credibility in your main in your main area of focus, you can start to venture out and go into other places, but it always has to happen in due time. You got to master one thing before you move on to the next. If not, you're not going to have success with either one.